Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to the first episode of Milo Murphy's Law. Yeah, we're only doing one episode today. I was going to do two, but based on the time and I have to leave for my Hobbit study at church and all tonight, we're getting back into that finally, so yeah, I just don't have the time, unfortunately. But yeah, we're going to do one episode. We're still getting to this, our new Wednesday series. So thank you all for voting on the poll and selecting this. So yeah, all I know about Milo Murphy's Law is that it's by the same people as Phineas and Ferb. Supposedly takes place in the same universe. And judging on the title, I would have to say it's about our main character, Milo Murphy, I assuming, having bad luck because Murphy's Law. Anything bad that can happen will. And I have seen a couple of the character designs before. The one you see in the channel banner representing for the schedule and all, the girl with the orange frizzy hair and all, she's adorable, and I really love her design. And I think I've seen the main character's design. I also think that Weird Al Yankovic is the main voice actor, which is really interesting in and of itself. But it's like I don't expect to hear his voice coming out of a character that looks like that, so I don't know. But I don't know what otherwise the plot's going to be about. I don't know pretty much anything about this series, which is good. That's how I want to go into a series. Now, I did really enjoy Phineas and Ferb. I wouldn't call it my favorite series ever, but I did really like it. I liked the music in it. I liked Doofenshmirtz. I loved Perry the Platypus. There was that movie, I don't remember what it was called, something about dimensions. That was fun. There was a Marvel superhero crossover and all. Yeah, it's just like Phineas and Ferb was a really good show, a really legitimately well-written, funny show that had lots of good characters, lots of good heart, and could do just a lot of great ideas with its concept. Now, I don't know if the characters will like specifically appear in Milo Murphy's Law at all, like basically a crossover. I don't know about that. All I know is that it does apparently, from what I've gathered, take place in the same universe. Especially because when I was doing the poll for this and all, someone did make sure I have seen Phineas and Ferb before, which definitely hints that, yeah, there's going to be some level of continuity. But yeah, that is a spoiler, but it could be worse, I guess. I don't know what's going to happen, so. But please, just don't go do that kind of stuff again. Please don't like say that kind of stuff. If you want to ask if I watched Phineas and Ferb, like that would be fine, but it's like they asked if I watched Phineas and Ferb. I was like, okay, good, making sure you watch that first. And it's like, okay, that's yeah. But yeah, I really wish I could do two, but just with the time, it's not going to be possible. So we're just going to get into this and hope that it's good. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so I looked it up, and yeah, I was right. Greg Sipes, or Gregory Michael Sipes, as it was listed in there, is the voice of Beast Boy. He's also Kevin Levin in Ben 10, and Michelangelo in TMNT 2012. So that's pretty interesting. And he was Mort in this one. I'm not sure which character that was. Oh, okay, he's the big guy. He's the big guy who is taking the amethyst. Okay. Fair enough. So yeah, this was the first episode of Milo Murphy's Law, and what do I think about it? It's good. I enjoyed it. But I'm just wondering, is every episode just going to be the same thing, or are they going to mix it up somehow? Because from what we got from this, it seemed like both of these minisodes within episode 1 were both about, they were both pretty much the same thing, just the events that actually happened were different, of course. And it's pretty much Milo and his friends, wherever Milo goes, bad luck seems to follow. Going in with Murphy's Law, everything bad that can happen will. And but it's also interesting that he's actually exceptionally lucky as well, because nothing actually ever happens to him. In the first part, in episode 1A, he and Zach got to school on time. Nothing bad actually happened to them. They were delayed a lot and they were put in these crazy situations, but nothing actually happened. They didn't get crushed. They didn't get super injured. They didn't, when they got abducted by the aliens, nothing actually happened to them there. Everything actually works out. Now, Milo did have a scar, we saw, that was mentioned in the first episode and all. But even so, it seemed very small and minute. So it's like, all in all this bad stuff happens, but it's not actually hurting him. So he's both exceptionally unlucky and exceptionally lucky at the same time. And it only seems to affect him specifically. Like, it only affects others when they're around him because they're around him. Like, it's not like Crow from Ruby, where the bad luck can actually seemingly affect others too. It's not quite like that. At least that's what's kind of implied in Ruby. No, it's more like it just affects Milo, so people tend to back up a little bit when they're around him. So he has this friend, and she seems to be very much understanding of Milo. His would you count it as an affliction? She seems very understanding of it, to the point where she knows what's going to happen. Melissa just seems to understand, like, oh, he'll get to school on time. And so she's milking these bets with the other students. She's making sure that that she gets all this good stuff. And it all works out, and she knows it's going to. But in episode 1B here, we also saw that if she's actually straight up involved in it, yeah, she can get freaked out a little bit. She can get a little scared, little unnerved, sure. But that's because the stuff that's actually happening is unnerving. But she knows that she does clearly know that Milo always gets through it and it always works out. So that's interesting. Now, in my pre-thoughts, I did say I felt it would be weird to hear Weird Al's voice come out of Milo's character design, because, again, I have seen that before. I've seen Milo and Melissa's character designs before. And yeah, it's really weird. Milo looks like he would have a voice like that just sounds a lot more plain and ordinary. Like, you could imagine, I believe the voice actor for Dipper in Gravity Falls is Jason Ritter. Like, you could imagine his voice coming out of Milo's appearance and everything, out of his mouth and all. Something like that, maybe. Or heck, even Callum's voice from Dragon Prince. But someone like Weird Al Yankovic, it's just like, he has such a very overly familiar voice. And while Milo as a character is kind of goofy and silly, he's not quite to the level where it would make sense, both in terms of design and personality, to really fit that voice. It's actually really distracting in a way. And not that Weird Al himself is doing a bad job at it. It's just the decision to have a character that looks so plain and ordinary sound like fucking Weird Al. Melissa and Zach and pretty much everyone else, they're fine. They're great. I have no issue with any of the other voices. Heck, I mean, Scott, the one cave dweller guy, the miner who was trapped underground. Scott looks and acts in a way that would make sense for Weird Al's voice. If Weird Al voiced him, it would be perfect. Not that the voice actor who was voicing Scott did bad, not by any means, but I'm just saying. That's the kind of character Weird Al's voice would work with. Or like the character he voiced in Star vs. the Force of Evil, that little magic user dude who's disguised as a magician, a human magician, and was really like sucking out their souls or something. It might have been just straight up souls. It might have been something a little less on the nose, but yeah, that kind of character works. Or Cheese Sandwich in MLP. It works for Weird Al's voice. But this kind of character, it just doesn't. It does not fit. And like I said, it's very distracting. Now, I'll probably get used to it because I do like the character still. And I do enjoy the scenario. But that brings me back to what I was asking before. Will this just be the same thing over and over? Or will they mix it up somehow? Because if it's just the same thing with the scenarios themselves and the specifics around it being a little different, it might get a little old. Because that's what happened with Miraculous Ladybug, if you don't remember. Back when I was reacting to that originally, I think on the old channel, my big issue was that it was basically the same thing over and over again. Hawkmoth, or whatever his name was, kept infecting people with his Akuma and using their regrets or their vanity or whatever, their anger towards someone to fuel them into becoming supervillains in all senses of the word, pretty much. And then, of course, Cat Noir and Ladybug had to either team up or work together in some way, or sometimes alone, to defeat the enemies and basically save them from their own inner turmoils. And every episode, though, despite the specific circumstances and details being different, was pretty much the same exact thing over and over and over. It was repetitive. And while Miraculous Ladybug is something I'm willing to give another chance to because I didn't feel it was bad by any means. What it was repeating, what it was repetitive of, wasn't a bad thing, and it was still entertaining to a point. It does get a little. It just gets a little boring after a time. So I'm hoping that with Milo Murphy's Law, they do some other things. Like, I would like to see an episode, for example, where nothing out of the ordinary happens to Milo. Nothing. But everyone is expecting something to happen the entire time. That would be good. That would be funny. It would be relevant to the series, to its plot and its style and everything, and its general. What's the word I'm looking for? You know what I mean. It would be relevant to what the series does. And it would actually be really clever as well. And it could even lead to a question as to why this kind of thing is happening. And that's another thing I do want explored. I want them to question, why does this happen? Why is he so unlucky? And lucky at the same time? Is there actually a reason? Is there something that's fueling it? Or is it just random luck? Both bad and good in a way. That is something that I want explored. And I don't know, it's just, there's a lot I feel they could do with it, but they could also very well make it just super repetitive. I'm hoping that the characters in general, as well as other characters we meet, help fuel it enough to keep it going strong, though. Now, I know that this is, I believe, in the process of its second season right now. Because when I went to download this episode off Kin Cartoon, there's this like listing at the top of the website that shows like new uploads and stuff, and one of them was, funny enough, Milo Murphy's Law Season 2. It was a Season 2 episode, so I'm thinking, okay, does this mean that it's currently airing still? Because I haven't heard anything about it more recently. I mean, I heard about it, people were talking about it when it first started, which I think was in 2016. But I really haven't heard anything about it since. So I don't know. But yeah, this first episode, I enjoyed it. I definitely see the inspiration from Phineas and Ferb. And going to that, actually, let's talk about that. Phineas and Ferb also had a very repetitive idea to it. Because if you remember, Phineas and Ferb, almost every episode, Phineas and Ferb are trying to figure out what to do on on their summer vacation. They think of this wild and wacky plan. Meanwhile, Perry the Platypus is going head to head with Doofenshmirtz in some way. Meanwhile, Candace is trying to bust her brothers. Isabella likes and crushes on Phineas and works with him. The other kids are somewhere around usually. And the parents never see anything bad actually happen. That is the typical formula for a Phineas and Ferb episode, because everything is magically fixed by the end to where no one knows what Phineas and Ferb did. Except, of course, the friends who helped them. The thing with Phineas and Ferb, the reason it kept being so good is they did switch things up a little bit every now and again. Sometimes Phineas and Ferb did things for other people specifically, such as the episode with the band, getting the band back together, which is my favorite Phineas and Ferb episode, by the way. There's ones where their adventures were a little more mundane, and ones where they were just exceedingly wild, like the time travel one. That was insane. Then you had just episodes that focused more on Perry and Doofenshmirtz's story. And it's just like there was variation to it while keeping it still formulaic in a way. It was both formulaic and variant. And it's something that I've never really seen another show do that well. Have both a formula and keep it really unique and interesting every episode. And I am hoping that Milo Murphy's Law can be the same. I'm hoping that they're able to still do that with this show. And I get it. This was only the first episode. We only saw 2 minisodes in this. So it's way too early to say any real thoughts on that. But yeah, I mean, it's still enjoyable enough for now, and hopefully it stays that way, and hopefully it gets to have those variant kind of things going on. Again, I mentioned some things that I would like to see happen, questioning why this is happening, maybe even finding out why this is happening. Also, maybe an episode where nothing happens. That would be just fascinating. But everyone is expecting it to, of course. Maybe an episode where somehow one of the other characters ends up getting the bad luck thing instead of Milo, like Melissa or Zach or one of the other kids that we've kind of focused on. Maybe one of them end up getting the bad luck. That would be interesting. There's a lot of different things they could do. And right now I'm thinking, for most part, if it is still the same kind of thing, I'm hoping at least the stuff that they do vary between episodes, the stuff like, okay, like what exactly is actually going down, and the new, just random episodic characters we meet through Milo and his friends' adventures facing all this bad luck. I hope that those at least are able to fuel it enough to keep it interesting every time. But tell me in the comments below what you think of Milo Murphy's Law Episode 1, both 1A and 1B. Tell me what you think of the concept of this show and just what it seems to be going for. And what do you think specifically about Weird Al voicing the main character and the fact that, at least in my opinion, it just does not fit? Tell me your thoughts on all of that and more in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See you all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles,